Well, welcome to today's talk. We are talking to Stacy Mather. He is a former elementary school teacher, but he also started YEP back in 2005, and then it really got running as a pilot project in 2007. And he's been working on really empowering children to be responsible citizens. YEP is affiliated with the Boys and Girls Club of America and also a member of the Youth Club, like an International Association of Youth Clubs. Is that right? I probably butchered that, but
The World Federation of Youth Clubs.
thank you. World Federation of Youth Clubs. He did repeat that to me like 3 times before we started. So anyways, so happy to have you, Stacy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kelly.
My pleasure. Maybe we could just start with, a lot's been happening in the last couple of years, understatement, I know, and just how you've been coping. Like, how have you coped through Irma, all the disasters that happened around Irma, as well as COVID now? How are you doing with it all?
So Irma was a disaster that we saw. We knew it was coming to
Yeah,
us. We knew when it hit, the devastation took a few hours.
yeah,
And then when we woke up, we saw what was going on, what happened. Then it was try to mentally and physically put yourself in a space where you know and think you can survive.
right.
Um, that was tremendous.
Hmm.
For myself personally, and I guess for the organization of YEP, we shifted from a youth-based organization and started to focus more on community needs.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was a great challenge for us.
Hmm.
Um, I myself personally, probably last year, started to recognize that I took on and took in a lot of emotions and a lot of stories from people.
Yeah.
And I realized that I bottled it up and I needed to start trying to expound it, get it out of me. With COVID, it has been a situation where we saw the beginning steps of COVID and the way it was being spread throughout the world, and we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
What has affected us has been it's an unseen um, enemy, so to speak.
Yes. Yes.
We've been fortunate in the BVI, both by decisions made by our government and also because of our proximity to major countries, that
Right.
we haven't had large numbers of cases.
Yeah.
But psychologically, we've been forced to have lockdowns, which has impacted us economically
Oh,
and socially. So that's been very challenging because if you compare the two situations, Irma, you saw why you couldn't go into a building
yeah.
and you knew why you couldn't drive
Yes.
around after a certain time because you didn't have street lights and places were destroyed. With COVID, everything is the way it was or it hasn't changed. So the restrictions of a curfew or a lockdown, psychologically, it's kind of a little different.
Yeah.
And, when a person cannot work, there are other things that you worry about, depression, um, putting food on the table for your family and that kind of stuff. And for me, those things trickle down even to children.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Are you hearing a lot of stories about stress from the kids you work with and how they've been
So
affected?
for us, I would say when COVID hit in the BVI, we started to go on lockdowns in March of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we changed our program and started offering our program to the best way we could on a virtual platform.
Right. Big difference.
And some of our feedback that we got, I remember there was this one parent who said that waking up every day and doing the activities with her daughter made her forget about COVID. It gave her
Yeah.
hope, doing drawings, paintings, doing some gardening, different activities. It helped the parent seemingly as much as it probably helped the child.
Doing something
Um,
normal, right? Like something creative and an outlet. That's great.
yes. So that structure which is missing or was missing because schools were on break at that time and going into March, April, it gave structure and it helped a lot. Waking up every day and having something to do to keep your mind distracted, it engaged them. And then also, even though some of the children, we were doing remote activities with them, my staff and I tried to nurture them, give them positive reinforcement as much as possible. So they felt a connection. They felt that there was someone out there who they maybe had never seen before, but was cheering them on in a over the top manner.
Right. Had someone in their court. That's great. You said before, like you felt like even you were kind of bottling some things up. Is some of this like outlet and working with the kids, like, has this been helpful for you to let go of some of that
Um,
stress?
it It has helped, and I've seen it myself personally. I've seen it with my staff.
Yeah.
Um, you know, as an elementary school teacher, um, I remember being told once you walk through the gates, you had to change. Your facade had to change. Whatever
Right.
you had that was worrying you, you had to focus on the little people that you were dealing with. Um, I think sometimes when you hear a child, not necessarily a negative story, but a child who's happy,
Mhm.
I'm doing well, I'm doing better in school than I did before, that makes you smile.
Absolutely.
Um, when a parent says their child is responsible, and even though they're out working and the child is at home, they're able to manage their work, you become proud. We started doing Taekwondo martial arts during Easter this year, March, April. And there's
Okay.
a child, I think she's about 12 now, and she's always been an introvert. She'll be that child sitting on the outskirts of an activity, very quiet spoken. And
Mhm.
I pushed for her to get involved with it. And the instructor who was doing it, he was phenomenal. I mean, she's continuing it now, and her level of confidence has risen. Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of my youth development professionals, and she was pointing out that that young lady, you can see how her confidence has boomed. So not all stories are negative, and then we as adults, we can draw from those things because if you feel good, I feel good, we all feel good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true. And I suppose too, and I mean, I think it always feels better to give than receive, right? And so, as much as you probably had more than your fair share on your plate ever since in the last couple of years, um, I suppose you had something practical to kind of get on with and doing that probably fed you in some ways. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the thought of, I mean, in the Virgin Islands, we're a people who we love to help others. And when you have a purpose, you
Mm,
wake up each day and you have that purpose.
mhm.
Right now, through the kindness of our chairman of the YEP board, Dr. Henry Jarecki, we're doing a project with meals. And I think probably by, I think tomorrow or early next week, we'll be up to having provided 10,000 meals,
Wow,
right?
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, so that in itself helps the society right now,
Yeah,
and it's a trickle down of a situation where he wanted to do something. He wanted to make sure his staff was still employed. And because he has two restaurants, he started to do it. And then that snowballed, and now we have Bitter End um, Foundation coming on stream and helping us with it. So even if it's just a plate of food, to give
yeah,
someone, it lets them know, hey, someone is thinking about you. And that's one less thing for that person to think about or a family to think about at this point in time. So that purpose of doing good, it generally helps you get through the day or through
absolutely.
any kind of disaster.
Yeah, that's very true. And so I suppose that speaks to kind of having that strategy for coping has really been being able to do some practical things and help others, which is great.
Mhm.
Um, you probably have some parents watching right now. Some might be involved with YEP, some might not be. What are some practical tips that you give parents when they're really struggling with coping, and how to manage and model some resilience for their children? Are there some things that you suggest that people try or that can maybe help the family?
So the first thing I've learned in life is that even though a child might be small in stature, they're great at understanding and they're really tremendously gifted at coping.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing to lean on your children
Right.
to get emotional support. You don't need to give them all the details, but saying, hey, mom, dad is really trying. Things are not as good as I would want them to be, but I love you and I'm gonna make it through. Talk to your
Right.
child, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, give your child that time. If it's an hour laughing, reading a book, watching something on television,
Yeah.
riding a bike, planting something, I've found that when a child sees something that they make or they grow, they believe in it. There's one thing you don't ever want to take from a child, that's hope, right? So
Yeah.
engage your children, support them, and above all, even the smallest of things, make it a big deal that they did well. If they've done something that needs to be adjusted or corrected, don't be afraid to do it. But at the same time, trying to maintain a facade that everything is okay is not going to benefit your child.
Yeah.
Talk to them, let them understand what is going on. So also when they interact with people, they know what's going on as well. They come across being aware and not being sheltered. So the routine shouldn't change that much. Just be truthful to the situation of what is going on.
Right. And maybe that piece where, them understanding that life has challenges and that there's difficulties and parents struggle too can kind of help them when they're struggling and not feel like they're so alone, or why can't I get it? Or why does everyone else seem to be doing well? And when maybe sometimes just admitting, hey, this is hard for us too, can be really, good life lessons, right?
Exactly. It's an opportunity to teach ambition, perseverance, strong will. But it doesn't have to be taught in a way of punishment. It can be taught in a way of nurture.
Right. Just coming alongside and showing your kids compassion, teaching them how to be self-compassionate too during difficult times. Really important. And sometimes we want to skip that step, right? As parents, we just want to fix it for them, or we just want to
Wow.
solve the problem, or we want to end the behavior. And it often isn't that easy, right? We have to take steps. And I'm sure part of YEP is really like getting to know the kids and spending the time and taking that time and putting our phones down. I'm sure that's something you have to get the kids to do too, but really taking time to connect with each other. And I think that it's just such amazing what you do. Have you also taken on some initiatives in terms of like, what can we do sustainably? Like how can we, are you growing gardens? Like, is YEP involved in some projects there? You're
So, um,
sighing there?
like most organizations, our plans for 2020 went left, right, center, up, and down,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
right now we're basically going, we're planning, we're counter planning, we're adjusting our plans, and we're trying to make it happen. We've
Yeah.
been doing a lot of art, painting for expression,
Beautiful.
right?
Yeah.
Um, when a child creates, like as I said before, they believe in themselves.
Hmm.
Um, we've found that technology and our approach to technology has to change, because if a child is sitting down, spending X amount of hours a day in front of a computer doing online lessons, it's
Yeah.
not exactly what they want.
Hmm.
We recently, with our teenagers, started a bike club, and that
Nice.
has helped them,
Yeah.
right? We've been teaching swimming. We started a snorkeling club that kind of lost a little bit of momentum because of what was going on. We've been doing crafts with them,
Yep.
trying to get them to learn a second language, some cooking exercises. So, and gardening has been a big thing as well. It's just been trying to keep them occupied. If we do virtual sleepovers, if we
Nice.
do,
Yeah.
I think one of my coworkers did a virtual party where they had to actually prepare their own decorations and things.
Love it.
So that works. Um, and for us right now, we're just trying to get to a place where we can actually have a safe physical contact with the children here. That nurturing is still necessary. We have a few here who
Yes.
are doing their academic schoolwork here during the day, and it's challenging because there's a learning curve for an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old who hasn't had a computer or a smart device in their hands.
Yep.
Learning to figure out where to access this, how to access that.
Yeah.
That child who needed that teacher to walk around the room, and just their physical presence would give them discipline and give them focus. It's difficult to do it through a screen.
Yeah.
And I, 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 I'm frustrated that we haven't arrived at a point where our children are allowed to go back to school, and that socialization is very important.
Hmm.
I'm worried about those who are at home alone right now, who are not getting that nurture that they got from their counselor or their principal or their teacher or their peers.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm also worried as a former educator, as there was a one child yesterday who was here, and he was having a snack while he was in class. And that's not traditionally something that he would do. So I'm also worried about bad habits being picked up, and
Right.
then that whole settling down when you go back into school, and those practices that were already established in routines are now broken. So I'm concerned about that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you kind of hit it. Like you've had to change so many things and find new ways and keep trying different things. And some of it, is working out. Some of it's been more of a grind. And I think that's the world over. So, I think everyone's trying to find new ways of doing things. But I think those are really valid concerns. But so great that YEP's there, right? Like so great that there's someone thinking of these, that you and your team are trying to work on solutions and find new ways creatively to connect. And, I'm sure that you guys so grateful for your presence. If
Yeah,
people haven't, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying we feel it, we hear it. I mean, when we ask children to give feedback, Open Yep is a lot more louder than Open School. So we've heard it and
Yeah,
we
I've been
appreciate it,
talking.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So if people haven't connected with you yet, what's the best way to connect with YEP? If they were thinking of getting involved, if they're thinking of donating time or resources, or if kids really wanted to connect that haven't yet, how can they find you?
So we have our main project on in East End on Tortola. We're still looking at expansion. We did a program on Virgin Gorda during the summer,
Oh,
and
awesome.
we're thinking about other areas. We just need partners. We're on social media. We have 2 pages, Yet BVI.
Yep.
Our website is yetbvi.com. If you want to reach me, my last name, Mather at yetbvi.com. Any of those things work. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. So we can be found. We can be found quite easily. Lastly, if you're in the East End area, you'll see the building. It has the letters on it, or someone will be able to tell you where we are and how to find us. We're easy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the work you do. I can hear how committed you are and how passionate you are about the kids and the community. So yeah, thank you for the work you do. We really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate the opportunity as well to speak with you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Take care.